Jake and Jacob connection. This is going to be a fun conversation. I'm here with the creator of the moon. More so, a little bit of preference. He is, or preface, I should say. He's the creator of Lunar Plots Token, which is a 2017 NFT project with 400 plots. It's gained a lot of attention recently. The floor is over $10,000. You want to be on the moon. It coincides perfectly with the ethos of crypto, specifically and especially back in 2017 when everything was going absolutely bananas. I'm more than excited to have Jacob on here, so thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Jake. I'm excited to meet and chat a little bit more about historical NFTs. Where should we start?
We can start really right off in the beginning. So I know you probably got pulled right back into this. What happened with most of us in 2018? We took a break. I did it. A lot of people did. It was just a nasty, grueling bear market. And some people did not want to come back at all. I'm assuming you kind of got pulled back a little bit. So just tell us a little bit of how you got into crypto, and then during that bear market before Lunar was rediscovered, what you were doing, and if you even wanted to come back to the space.
Yeah, totally. I'm getting flashbacks from the stock market, bear market right now. So it's beginning to. I started off in 2017, or maybe a little bit before that, getting super interested in Ethereum. I'm a software engineer by trade, and so I was really interested in sort of learning the programming aspects of like how Solidity works, and it had a few friends and coworkers who had been sort of exposed to it earlier, and so I came at it really from sort of like a technical angle, like, oh, this is a really interesting technology. Like, how can I learn more about it? And at that point, I was also like, not really an investor or anything like that. So I didn't have money to actually buy Ethereum. So learning how to use it was more interesting or like possible at that point. I got super interested in it. Immediately, I think the idea of like utility tokens was super interesting to me and continues to be. And I think Lunar Token was sort of an exploration. Really, the first project I made in the using Ethereum that was really meant to sort of explore like what would it look like if real estate or land or virtual goods were represented on the blockchain. And so, I created this project in the span of about a month or maybe 2 months. This was like kind of right in the heat of like mid to late 2017 when some of the very first projects had just been created and launched. All of the all the original plots were bought like in that initial period before the like December crash of 2017. So that was cool. It felt like it had like succeeded already in that sense. And nowadays, like we talk about like minting NFTs and things like that. So it's like it was already sort of minted out. And then, this sort of dark period happened in early 2018 where, everyone who had been buying and investing in crypto sort of got quiet about it. and then in that time, the website went dark, but the contract was still there for a long time. And it wasn't until early 2021, I got like a small message from someone. I feel free to interrupt me whenever, but I got an email from someone anonymously saying like, hey, like what happened to Lunar Token? Like, where is it? And I was like, oh, it's still there. It's on the blockchain and everything. And the web client's right here. Let me just like try to stick it up again. So I, re-registered the domain and everything and got it up again. And just a couple months later, it sort of started getting Twitter notifications and things like that. And all these people started talking about it. It sort of got rediscovered in the heat of this like historical wave on Twitter that had sort of taken off, and the rest is
history. Yeah, crypto finds a way of pulling you back in, even if you don't want to participate. I've had this story, heard this story a few times. I had Ken on of Pixel Map, where I think he said he was at like 7-Eleven or something before he received a message from Adam McBride to try to restart it. When you were first approached about it, did you think there was any value there? Did you think these people were just like crazy to try to unironically unearth the moon from hiding?
Yeah, I think the idea of sort of collectible NFTs was, I guess that was always sort of part of the idea, or part of the concept, but I think it wasn't. Hindsight is a little more clear, but it wasn't actually clear to me that, oh wow, this was really early, or like this was really one of the first projects that existed that implemented this concept. So now, sort of being a bit more tied into the historical community, it's really cool to see like, oh hey, like this is part of the history of these first projects that existed, and sometimes they were clear inspirations, and other times it was just independent developers who are making cool shit at the same time, and then now we're putting the pieces together and like sort of like assembling the fossils and understanding how these things were building on each other, which is really cool. But yeah, the feeling I had in 2021 was sort of like, oh wow, like one, like I missed the boat, or I was too early for the boat. And two, like, yeah, I don't know, just sort of like a sense of gratitude and excitement for that people found it again. Yeah.
It's one of the cool components of the historical NFT space is that it's kind of anointing those like early pioneers and giving them some brevity to come back into the space and either continually pursue it and innovate with some of the projects we see with like Pixel Map and Mooncats, or you could just have it as just like a historical museum like collectible and just let it exist like CryptoPunks and some of these other ones, which is cool. And we've seen both directions happen so far. And just observing Lunar Token, it appears you've been a little bit more active recently, and maybe it's more you're having more interactions with the community, or maybe crypto really is just pulling you back. Looking at it now that it's been rediscovered and it's been 6-8 months since that rediscovery, which side of the fence do you sit on? More of the museum collectible, or more of a potential integration or just addition of utility?
Yeah, it's a really like tricky balance I've been thinking about a lot. And I think initially I was definitely more on the like historic preservation sort of side. And I think I'm still leaning that way in terms of like my own involvement and everything. But what I think is really exciting is the sort of, yeah, kind of cool partnerships and sort of like meta level things you can do on top of these projects. And had a really interesting discussion. I think you might have been there during the Realms DAO space we had on Twitter the other day, where they're really talking about like, hey, yeah, we've got this really cool historical NFT sort of relic. How do we sort of like build value in the community, or like create value for the people who have this in a way that's sort of non-destructive of the original assets? And that's what's important to me, is that we're not like changing or destroying the meaning or value of the original thing, but sort of like building up stuff around it. Obviously you don't want to like go paint over the Mona Lisa, but maybe you like, create a cool exhibit around it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the guys over at Realms of Ether are trying to create a historical museum or even an auction house, which Lunar Plots goes in quite in hand. Also, the scarce limited supply of Lunar Plots, which is 400, is actually 100 less than Realms of Ether. So I have seen a lot of comparisons to, I don't know if you followed the Ether Rock thing. I'm sure you've been thrown into it a little bit, of the high price, which then is more of a deterministic of the market cycles and analysis. Do you think at all about price? Do you try? I know as a developer, it's tough because you get sucked into it, and you have people coming in and doing exclamation point floor and when moon, even though it is a moon. How do you keep yourself, I guess, separated from the market dynamics that exist in crypto?
Yeah, the market dynamics, especially for these sort of really rare, low supply tokens, is really interesting. I mean, the market is small and the volume is not always high. So price is really difficult to determine. And I tried not to think about it and just sort of, I've got my plot, I'm holding it forever. And that's sort of my approach. But but it's definitely exciting. It's cool to see when prices go up, and it's a roller coaster when they go down and everything. But yeah, I'm in it kind of for the long term and for kind of holding a cool asset at this point.
That's what we're here for, man. I saw I think a sale was around like 15 ETH or something pretty close to that. But what's interesting about having like these low supplies, which is a beneficiary, which is a benefit and also a distraction, is that with only 400 people, you can only have at max 400 different community holders. So then it makes it a little bit tough to build a community, because one thing we've noticed is with NFTs, it scales social capital so fast. People form communities around these assets within seconds to minutes to days, and they become really devout. Have you thought anything about maybe an additional drop or anything that can include a larger community outside of 400 owners?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something I don't think I appreciated at the beginning of sort of like us spinning up the Discord and everything like that. It's like, yeah, it's very exclusive, and very limited to the number of assets you can actually buy. So there's been here's the site. There's been some discussion of fractionalization and things like that, and again, trying to think of like ways to do that's not too like destructive or distracting from the core thing. I know that they did that with rocks and everything, and I don't know what the outcome really was there, but I think what would be interesting, and if you have any ideas or other people have ideas on how to sort of like open up the community to people who maybe don't have an original plot, or create additional things around it, or just excitement and involvement around the project, or maybe like Moon alumni, like people who had a plot at one point, things like that.
That's pretty cool. So when I look at this specifically on the website, for those that are listening, I'm sitting here just toying around the moon, kind of like a globe, right? Where you just like in the old days when you spin a globe and you throw a dart and you're like, I'm going to go travel here. I see this as like an early proof of concept for a metaverse. And what I see then is like maybe something similar to what Ken has done with Pixel Map, where you have a tile and you have an image on top, but then you can kind of go into this room where then you can decorate it and it becomes your little metaverse. Maybe building something on top of it as an extension, or maybe even doing a release of like a Jupiter moon, or that could be an extension. I'm not sure. I'm assuming this is probably the moon of Earth, but you could have a whole moon ecosystem which can expand as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. People have asked me to do Mars a bunch of times, but I like the idea of doing moons of different planets. Actually, maybe that's more thematic or something. I'd love to find a way to do something like that both kind of ties in or delivers like interesting value to people who are part of the existing community, as well. So maybe like we find another moon, and then, people who have an existing plot, automatically get like a small piece of that as well, or something like that.
What caught my eye with this project is this is the first post from October 20th, 2017. That's when the contract went live. You added in some lore, which is very similar to Mooncats and a few other projects, which is early pioneers, because now we see a lot of these modern NFTs, which is 2021 and newer, adding lore with GameFi and all of these other narratives. And I noticed that on here, there's something you talked about. The real estate's non-fungible, but the land on the near side of the moon may become more expensive since it's always visible to Earth, or perhaps the landing sites of Apollo missions will become collectible. This caught my eye because of your narrative, the top of the moon is actually more expensive, but it could be completely subjective. And when we go back to the original website, the points and the peaks on the north and south poles are actually much smaller in terms of square footage, or whatever the metric is for measuring length on the moon. I personally would like one of these side ones, because it seems like the plot is much larger. But because of your story and narrative, It seems like the community has kind of followed it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of something for everyone there. I mean, yeah, I mean the dark side of the moon is really interesting. I mean, the moon is, geostationary or whatever the phrase is, so it's facing the same side of the Earth at all times. The dark side is really something we would see. So maybe that's intriguing to you. Maybe it's less important. The moon, the poles versus the equators, something I wasn't really expecting, but yeah, people sort of early on sort of tried to consolidate the poles and, own all of that area and everything like that. So they've probably changed hands more than other parts, actually.
So this Medium article that you wrote, it mentioned that there's something on here. Oh, you can obtain a virtual deed for part of the moon by purchasing the Lunar Token, $Luna. I'm assuming that's the actual plot, or was there something else that you had in mind?
Yeah, no, that's the actual plot. And so one of the nuances of the original contract is it sort of predated the official 721 protocol. And so it's actually more like a modified ERC20. So if you actually look at the contract on Etherscan or wherever, you'll see it's actually like some of the metadata is interesting. It's sort of captured as an ERC20 token. But yeah, that's just kind of because it was unclear at that point, kind of how it was going to work. So now there's, go ahead.
As I said, that's the fun part with all of these newer projects. There's so many nuances to all of these contracts. One question, obviously, this is a moon. Moon is very synonymous with crypto. We're going to the moon. It's the same thing with like Ether Lambos. I had a conversation with them about the Lambos because when we go to the moon, we're going to buy a Lambo. Is the reason you created Lunar because of the mimetic, I guess, say popularity within crypto, or was it something else more meaningful to you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was definitely an aspect of it. I mean, the moon meme was and continues to be everywhere. So it felt like supernatural to me. The other sort of like inspiration was sort of, I don't know if you remember, but there, were these sort of very early 90s, like websites on the net that were sort of, allowing you to buy virtual land or stars and things like that. And so it's sort of hearkening back to like the beginning of the internet. So we're sort of like, like a flashback to like, here's what the internet looked like when it started. Here's what like Web3 or crypto looks like now, sort of hearkening back to that. And then, as sort of sort of really as a prototype of, like you said, like a metaverse or potentially like a real estate application in the future for NFTs. It was just, it made more sense to use something else in the solar system than Earth, because we can actually trade and exchange that and talk about it in a way of sort of, testing the waters, so to speak, without having to actually deal with the legalities of real property on Earth. If that makes sense.
It's true. I like that. And from your GitHub, I think this is the repository. The first comment you have in here is from September 22nd, 2017. So it actually lines up pretty closely with what you're talking about earlier, that it took about a month to build this. I did notice on here, it says something about ERC 721, although ERC 721 didn't exist or wasn't created or implemented back at that time. So this is more so using your foresight and kind of seeing the future, because I know it was being discussed. It just was not an official standard back then.
Yeah. So if you look at the dates here, the project was launched in between the original draft and the second draft there, between September 20th and November 9th. So as while this was being discussed and figured out. Yeah.
Are any of these original, I'm assuming probably some of these bought Lunar Plots back then, are any of the original owners still around in the community?
Some of the original owners definitely are. There have been people who've reached out to me, and I mean, I know several of the holders are definitely still original buyers. They've come through, and some of them are now like pretty well-known people in the crypto space and everything. So it's been cool. So you mentioned that you coded this. Was it completely by yourself? Did you outsource it at all? Or did you have maybe some of these people on your GitHub help you at all with some advisement, or looks like they're talking about transfer functions and some of the technical components to it? Yeah, and this is like the main Ethereum open source project here of proposals and everything like that. So these were all people who are sort of making comments and contributing to the proposal that eventually became what NFTs are. So in that sense, yeah, it's definitely inspirations pulled from the open source work that was being done by everyone at the time. In terms of the project itself, no, it was pretty much solo development work. The moon visualization itself, I use some Web3, some WebGL sort of like open source examples and things like that to sort of get that going. But that was also a new technology at the time, just like being able to do 3D visualizations in the browser. So sort of stitching together these very new things that we're still developing, which was fun.
So now on OpenSea, for those that don't know, since Lunar Token is the ERC20, it cannot be sold on OpenSea because they've adopted an ERC 721 standard. So in order to do that, you have to wrap it, and basically you just cut out all of some of the GameFi functionalities or some of the other things. Were you the one that wrote the wrapper to this? I tried looking this up and I could not find it.
I did not write the wrapper. Actually, it was another community member who's part of the Discord and part of the sort of Twitter space. They put together the wrapper, which you can view as well. And now it's been sort of sanctioned as part of the official website and everything like that. But yeah, that was like a really delightful thing about also the rediscovery process was that a bunch of people came together and just sort of helped level it up and get it listed on OpenSea and create tools to help people explore like which ones were still for sale and what their prices were and things like that. And so since then, we've sort of reincorporated that work back into the project. But yeah.
So where are the royalties being directed to? Is there a community fund, which I know Realms of Ether have adopted, as well as a few others? Or maybe in the original case of the Mooncat's unofficial story, that those royalties went to the developer and he just kind of hoarded it all and caused a lot of confusion and a lot of hurdles to have to overcome.
Yeah. Originally the royalties were going to the developer, like to myself and to the other developers who helped put those things together. As of the last couple months, we've put together a DAO. And so now the funds are going to community wallet that will be used to fund future work, either future development or marketing efforts, or one of the proposals has been to like actually buy back plots from the market and then use them as like incentives or rewards for other work as well. So yeah, it's going to the community now.
Oh yeah, here it is. It says from February 13th. It's a tweet. The LunarDAO held a vote on a treasury fund proposal that passed 19-0. The DAO will now create a multi-sig treasury fund to be funded from OpenSea royalties. The first function of the treasury will be to buy Lunar Plots.
Yep.
Are there any other proposals that are underway, or maybe something you'd like to see happen from the LunarDAO?
Yeah, I'd love to see more proposals thrown out there. There have been some really interesting discussions. I mean, one discussion was around, maybe we should be buying other assets, like have the community actually own partially other historical assets as well, or do something more, even more creative with it. Realms has been doing a bunch of really interesting things, or has proposed doing a lot of interesting things. So we could definitely explore those things as well. But yeah, super open to ideas there.
I'm gonna have to buy one and then propose that we want Europa Moon. That's where life might be. I think that's the Jupiter Moon. I might be wrong there, but so here I'm gonna pull up Ken. Ken's been doing a really good job, the creator of Pixel Map, at creating this like NFT archaeology website. And right now it's just ETH based, but when you go down and you look at it, Lunar Token is literally the 7th one that's listed. To show reference, it's before CryptoCats, before Realms, it's before EtherRock, right after 1000 Ether homepage, and Mooncats and CryptoPunk kind of predate it. So truly ahead of his time. There might be some missing in there, but it just blows my mind where we are today. And one thing I wanted to ask too, in terms of the storage system, I know these kind of vary. Are Lunar plots on chain? Is the plots themselves stored into IPFS? Is there some sort of custom solution? And then was that original storage system that was set in place in the beginning currently what is being used?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Yeah, currently it's a custom solution. It's like the static resources are hosted on a CDN, but moving into IPFS would be very easy to do. Or that's a good idea. So yeah, I don't see why not. Obviously, all of the actual ownership information and the prices, market, everything is hosted on chain. But the sort of web client itself, the visualization is hosted on a CDN right now, downloadable, but yeah, could be moved to somewhere else. And yeah, to answer your question, it's always been in the same place.
Yeah, from the discussions that I've had with other historical projects, IPFS was not that popular back then. I think it was created in 2015. It was like relatively unknown. And now we see like decentralized storage systems starting to pop up. It's still kind of like in that primitive state of respectively to where IPFS was when you created Lunar.
Yeah, it's evolved a lot. So.
All right, I'm pulling back up the highest sales because I really wanted to take a look myself. It looks like the highest sale is 15.5 ETH, and it is one of the plots smallest in size, but right at the tippy top at one of the polars of the moon. And then the next two are large plots on the side. Looks like one's on the dark side, and then back to the plot. So kind of all over. Super interesting to see. I know this is most of these purchases are probably like peak rediscovery when everyone is just kind of having a literal digital land grab.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super interesting to see it. Yeah, it's all over. I think there was a lot of like price action there where people were, trying to, whatever the price was, people maybe weren't discriminating as much on like what the land itself was. But I think personally, I would care about kind of where it was or what it meant to me.
So which plot is yours? Which one do you own?
Oh, I don't want to give it away.
All right, fine. No worries. I will protect the anonymity. I'm sure some people have probably figured it out, but
yeah, no, it's okay. No, I have one of the craters on the front.
On the top part? Oh, the crater. Oh, one of these. And why is that? Is the crater meaningful? When you were creating lunar plots, did you discover anything about the moon that you didn't know prior and had to add that into the visualization of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that the moon sort of moves around the Earth is super interesting property of an accidental property of our moon, not one of all moons. So it's super interesting. I think one thing that sort of was interesting was just seeing how many different lunar landing sites there were on the far side and near side of the moon. And the way that the data was actually collected to generate this imagery is actually from at least one, maybe several different NASA flights that sort of stitch together imagery. So the fact that we can see what the far side of the moon looks like is because we've flown we've flown around it and captured that data.
You know what would be cool is if you created rovers that were ERC 721s and that you can buy and put on your plot.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea.
This is what we're doing. We're game planning.
Rovers, landers would be really cool. I think like an accessory boutique store like Mooncats, but with maybe allowing you to build like a lander or a rover would be super interesting. And then maybe like a meta layer you could toggle here that would let you see those things. I'm definitely feeling pretty inspired by the action that Mooncats has been doing and what their community has been up to. And I know you're sort of part of that as well. And that's also one of the exciting things we're working on right now is a sort of exclusive collab between the two that'll probably land sometime later this month or next month.
Pun intended. If I could put my mooncats on the moon, I don't know what more of a fitting 2017 historical narrative that it could be. Unless I could take a rocket off there. I mean, you could even integrate it because the story of mooncats is that they started on the moon, then they left, and now they're trying to make their way back. So that'd be a pretty fitting narrative. What do you think about the historical NFT community? I know as you begin to collab and participate, you begin realizing that it's pretty much the same people in all of the different Discords.
Yeah. It's been really cool to see. It's a cool community. I like that the people in that community it's not just random new people in every project or people trying to, push their new thing. It seems like there is sort of an appreciation for like value and collectibles and things like that. And, sort of the history or meaning of the projects and everything too.
When you reach, I'm just browsing through the website. Back then, MetaMask was not popular. I don't even know if it was created back then. Was there a preferred? First, was MetaMask exist back then?
It was. It was. I think I integrated everything with MetaMask. I think it was maybe one of the only ones that was sort of popular as a browser extension and everything.
So there's pretty much no other wallet solutions then.
Yeah.
And browsing, I didn't even notice. So what on here also says something about a profile. Is that something that I'm not able to see on here, or was that like a potential plan that just wasn't implemented?
So if you click back on the top there, so that'll bring you back to like just sort of, click on explore.
Explore, okay.
Yeah. So this here is sort of your profile. So it would normally show your property up at the top. And now it shows as well, like sort of the marketplace of all the available listings. So yeah, when you own one, it'll show up there.
Okay.
And it also shows, like who it's currently owned by or whether it's wrapped or not.
Interesting. I always find this very, very intriguing within the historical space where some of those do not end up migrating it with a wrapper to ERC 721 and they only exist in the primitive state. I don't know if that's because of like the collectible potentiality that they want to keep it fresh and new. This was a discussion within Mooncats with boutiques, is that if you don't accessorize it or even put it through a wrapper, then it's like the equivalent of like an unopened action figure from back in the day. So I think some people do represent those perspectives, but I do find it interesting because they're always more expensive in the original state. It's literally never cheaper. It's always more expensive in the ERC20 and then cheaper on OpenSea.
That's interesting. And my hypothesis might be that it's actually because the people who are not wrapping it don't have the intention to sell it. Or there's just less volume or liquidity in the non-wrapped market as well. There's maybe one explanation. So people who don't intend to sell it are probably don't have a need to wrap it. But I personally don't think there's a huge difference between the two. So long as the wrapper supports wrapping and unwrapping, you can always go back and forth.
So as somebody who's been in crypto or early pioneer, regardless if you left or not, do you participate in the modern NFTs? Do you invest in anything? Does it interest you at all?
I think it's cool. I think, there've been a few projects that I sort of looked at and collected and, I bought a penguin and flipped that and everything. I'm sort of keeping my eyes open to new projects. At the moment, I'm not currently as excited about anything new as historical things. But I think I'm more excited about thinking about like future utility of NFTs. And I guess sort of, artwork is like one application of this technology. And I'm sort of beginning to think about like, what are some other ones that might be more interesting. One project I'm sort of working on the side right now, in addition to all the other stuff that's going on, is I think it would be really cool to build a service that lets you sort of treat NFTs more as like a key or a gateway into different parts of the internet, like either private communities similar to Collabland or maybe entire websites or parts of the internet. So thinking a little bit about how to build that and hoping to launch like an MVP of that soon.
Interesting. So more of you're going along the trend of access tokens.
Yeah. I think like whether it's sort of a different type of token or it could be, you own this particular NFT and therefore you get access to this sort of special club or access to this website or something like that.
Does that exist, or does that idea exist only in the digital space, or are you trying to replicate it for real world access as well?
Yeah, good question. I think it could extend to both. I think easier to implement in the virtual space, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I ask is I live out in Las Vegas, and I'm starting to see more gated music festival token, or first token gated music festival. I went to one last Saturday. Wasn't much actually there. I think it was more of a buzzword, but there's one that's happening in 2 weeks that I'm going to go explore and see what that actually means, because I know it's going to be a buzzword. Anytime there's a new trend within crypto, especially with NFTs, people just completely run with it and try to milk it for as much money as possible.
Yeah, I think conceptually it's really interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how people implement it and if it works. But yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is there, right? It's like a token could be the same thing as a ticket, and so why not if you can make it happen.
So while you work on this within the NFTs, do you do anything outside of NFTs, or are you now fully pulled into the crypto space again?
No, yeah. My sort of 9 to 5 or my day job is I run a startup in the sort of educational space. So yeah, we help people with tech related learning. So I normally sort of like teach people technical topics and coding and things like that.
Interesting. It's going right within the narrative of historical NFTs, where you're trying to educate people more so than anything. So right now, Lunar then is more of a side project, or you're more of like the mother. You're just like helping the baby kind of grow and flourish over time.
Yeah. I see myself more as like the shepherd or the guardian angel over this project, which has sort of grown definitely beyond me. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, I hope. Is there, I know it's open source, is there a way for anyone to build around it, or to partner with you? If there's anyone that's listening and they want to build a second moon that's coincides with Lunar Plots in the ecosystem, or they want to build like the ERC 721 rovers to exist on it, how would somebody go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just reach out. Just reach out to us in the Discord or on Twitter. You can find me on Lunar Token on Twitter, or Jake Simon for my personal account. Definitely reach out. I'm happy to set you up with everything you need to get started there and work on extensions. Yeah.
I wish I was technically savvy like all of you guys, but unfortunately I'm not. This would be like one of the projects I would for sure try to go in on. It's so cool. So now looking into the future, where do you think crypto is going? Do you think it's something that permeates within all of the other industries that exist in the real world? Is it more of just a buzzword that remains niche? I'm just curious on your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm conflicted. I'm going to see where things go. I think Web3 is a really powerful concept, and I'm curious to see like if it sort of lives up to the hype in terms of like really replacing some of the core like fundamental web concepts. In some sense, I mean, the web has always been a decentralized technology, and so really it's about kind of like how are we using it, how are we building things on it, and I think blockchain and Ethereum and crypto are really important sort of primitives for building like future things on the web, but it's probably not the whole story. Like I think we need more things, and it's maybe just sort of like a lens or a shift in perspective on how people are building communities and companies, which is maybe the more fundamental change there. But I don't know, somewhat like sarcastically, I kind of expect there to be a Web 4 where everything gets centralized again or something. But let's see.
Yeah, let's hope not. I do think I'm similar with you. I 100% think that crypto is the future. I do think there's a lot more hurdles that are going to have to overcome. It's more so just switching the perspective. The time that we just recorded this, Joe Biden had the crypto executive order basically saying that they want to work with crypto and innovate. Although I don't know if I completely believe that those are 100% their transparent intentions. We'll see. But that's kind of, I think the nation state is quote unquote like the final boss for crypto that we just have to overcome until we can finally go back to the moon.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, Jacob, I know you're running low on some time, so I just want to say thank you and appreciate you for coming in and sharing your thoughts, and also being an early pioneer and just following your curiosity. This is something that I try to embrace, and what's led me into crypto. We all have these weird, strange backgrounds, and whether you're a technical builder or you're an educator or a personality or investor, we all find different ways to enter the space, but the community is really, really what keeps us here.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jake, for having me on your show and for creating a platform to talk about these things. And yeah, really excited to see what happens and follow the story along.
Hopefully one day I'll be a part of the community. Definitely one of the top projects that I'm looking at. Just need to acquire some more funds before I can place the flag and maybe build a Mooncat or a Mr. Moose statue on my plot when that's a reality.
Yeah, well, come on through. Everyone is welcome.
Cool. Well, also, what's the best place for everyone to find you, follow you outside Twitter or anything else?
Yeah, so Twitter, Lunar_Token on Twitter. You can find our Discord link there, as well as the OpenSea listing. You can follow me personally at Jake Simon on Twitter as well. And yeah, you'll find us there.
Sweet. In a second, you'll probably have like 1 million LinkedIn ads now.
Yeah.
All right, Jacob, thank you. And everybody who's listening and watching, we'll catch you next time.